Imagine waking up about 8,000 years ago. The morning air is warm. A thin layer of mist covers the forest. You step outside your small wooden hut, stretch your arms, and walk toward the pile of grain your family harvested just days ago. Everything seems normal until you hear something. A quick scratch, another, then silence. You freeze. Slowly, you turn around. A strange bird is standing only a few feet away. Its feathers glow deep red beneath the rising sun. Its sharp eyes never leave yours. The moment you take another step, it disappears into the jungle. Just like that. You don't know it yet. But thousands of years from now, that tiny wild bird will become the most common bird on Earth. Today, there are more than 30 billion chickens living alongside humans. That's nearly 4 chickens for every single person alive. But here's the real mystery. How did one shy jungle bird manage to conquer the entire planet? The answer is far stranger than most people realize. Because unlike what many people believe, ancient humans never woke up one day and decided, let's create chickens. The story happened slowly, almost by accident. To understand it, we have to travel back to the forests of Southeast Asia. Long before cities, long before kingdoms, these forests were home to a small bird called the red junglefowl. At first glance, it didn't look very special. It was small, fast, extremely cautious, and surprisingly good at flying short distances through dense trees. Every day, it searched the forest floor for seeds, fallen fruit, tiny insects, and anything else it could find. Its biggest strength was never power, it was fear. The slightest sound could send an entire flock flying into the trees. For thousands of years, humans and these birds barely noticed each other. Our ancestors hunted much larger animals, deer, wild pigs, even massive cattle. A tiny jungle bird wasn't worth chasing. But then, everything changed. Humans stopped wandering. Instead of following food, they began growing it. Small farming villages appeared across the landscape. People planted rice, stored grain, and for the first time in history, food stayed in one place. It seemed like the perfect invention, but every invention creates a new problem. As grain filled wooden storage baskets, something else arrived. Rats, mice, thousands of them. Every night, they slipped into villages, stealing precious food that families depended on to survive the coming months. And they weren't alone. The red junglefowl had noticed them too. To a hungry jungle bird, a farming village looked like paradise. There were seeds everywhere, insects hiding between the crops, and rodents constantly searching for food. Without realizing it, the birds began visiting human settlements more often. At first, they stayed far away, watching from the edge of the forest, waiting until people left. Then they rushed in, grabbed whatever food they could. Day after day, this happened again and again. But something unexpected slowly began to change. Not the humans, the birds. Some junglefowl were naturally less afraid. Instead of flying away immediately, they stayed just a little longer. Those extra few seconds meant more food, more energy, a better chance to survive, and eventually more chicks. Generation after generation, the calmest birds gained the biggest advantage. Without anyone planning it, nature itself had started selecting the future ancestors of every chicken alive today. But this was only the beginning, because the relationship between humans and these wild birds was about to change forever. At first, humans didn't even notice what was happening. To them, these birds were nothing more than cautious visitors. Sometimes they stole a few seeds. Sometimes they chased insects away from the crops. Sometimes they simply disappeared back into the forest. But year after year, the distance between them grew smaller. The birds became less afraid, and the humans became more tolerant. Eventually, children began throwing leftover grain onto the ground, not because they wanted pets, but because feeding the birds kept them nearby, and nearby birds were much easier to catch than wild ones deep inside the forest. Without realizing it, humans had taken the very first step toward domestication. Then something even more remarkable happened. People discovered eggs. Wild junglefowl laid only a small number each year. Every egg was valuable. Families that protected these birds suddenly had a reliable source of food without risking dangerous hunts. So instead of chasing deer through forests, they could simply collect breakfast every morning. Generation after generation, humans unknowingly changed the birds. The calmest birds survived. The birds that laid more eggs were kept alive. The birds that grew slightly larger provided more meat. Little by little, the red junglefowl began changing. Their bodies became heavier. Their feathers became more colorful. Their fear slowly faded. And something surprising happened. The birds themselves started depending on humans. Instead of searching endless forests for food, villages offered an easier life. There was grain, fresh water, protection from many predators. For the first time, both species were benefiting. Humans had discovered a dependable source of meat and eggs. The birds had discovered the safest place they had ever lived. It was one of history's greatest partnerships. But the story was about to become even stranger. Thousands of years passed, and traders began traveling farther than ever before. They carried spices, salt, metal, and something else, small wooden cages filled with chickens. From the forests of Southeast Asia, they spread into India, then China, then the Middle East. Soon, they reached ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, the Roman Empire. Every civilization found a different use for them. Some raised them for eggs, some for meat, others admired them for their colorful feathers. In many cultures, the crow of a rooster became the sound that welcomed a new day. Before clocks, before alarms, it was the rooster that told entire villages morning had arrived. By now, the wild bird that once hid in dense forests had become one of humanity's closest companions. But here's the most unbelievable part. If you compare a modern chicken's DNA to its ancient ancestor, scientists found they're still incredibly similar. Deep inside every chicken alive today, the red junglefowl still exists. The instinct to scratch the ground, the instinct to search endlessly for food, Even the way chickens communicate with dozens of different sounds comes from their wild ancestors. In fact, baby chicks begin communicating with their mother before they even hatch. They can recognize familiar voices, remember faces, and solve surprisingly complex problems, far smarter than most people ever imagine. So, did humans really create chickens? Not exactly. Humans created farms. Farms created opportunity. And one cautious jungle bird made the smartest decision in its entire evolutionary history. It stayed. That single decision changed human civilization forever. Today, over 30 billion chickens live across our planet, more than any other bird. Yet every time one scratches the ground, it's quietly repeating the same behavior. Its wild ancestor performed deep inside the jungles of Southeast Asia, thousands of years ago. Maybe the greatest survival strategy wasn't becoming stronger or faster, it was simply learning to live beside humans. And no bird has ever done it better. Thanks for watching.